top part of your screen where those officers are, that's Hollywood Boulevard along the Walk of Fame.
It's also the only opportunity law enforcement has to communicate with the protesters. So that too could have been where they just walked up and then and just told an individual, you can't come any closer than this location.
Yeah, that could very well be. Let's go ahead and pull out all the way. I want to get an idea for the size of the crowd behind this initial group here. Let's go ahead and tilt north a little bit. Yeah, so they're dealing with a relatively small crowd there, and another crowd right around the corner turning on to or turning off of Cahuenga Boulevard. El Cerrito, Jay, is that what you said? In the city?
Okay.
Right where we, okay, so we do have a report of looting in this vicinity.
Okay.
Somebody in this neighborhood is looting along El Cerrito, so we will try and nail that down. What's the intersection, Jay? El Cerrito and Hollywood.
That makes sense, Chris, because I'll go back to Scott Wright.
El Cerrito, north of Hollywood. You're looking at Ivar. Clearly, LAPD now on the move. They've been given the order to advance on this crowd. And by the way, it's not a large crowd, so there's something in this crowd. There's something about these stragglers here that are concerning to the LAPD, and clearly they want to calm the situation down, but they also want to contain that group. It would not surprise me if we see another skirmish line forming on the north side and maybe perhaps blocking or boxing this group in. We're talking about maybe a dozen or maybe a couple of dozen if we tilt down of protesters in this shot here. But again, a lot more officers getting ready to engage with this group. It's not a big group at all. You can see many more police officers than agitators.
This is exactly what happened yesterday, and see, that's what I was curious about. They did talk to some. Okay,
they're pulling somebody out of this car.
That's what
don't know what that. Okay. Don't know what that's all about. What that? I believe it's a woman. What she did there, but they just reached in there, pulled her out for some reason. There's a passenger being ordered out of the vehicle now. She is. Looks like these two are going to be detained, and yeah, they just emptied out that pickup truck. Something clearly happened with the driver and passenger of this pickup truck.
Chris, we're going to interrupt you and go to Rob Hayes. Rob, is that tear gas we're seeing being used in that neighborhood?
I don't believe it's tear gas. It looks like it's just some sort of pink firework that was a smoke bomb that was thrown into the crowd here. The officers here have taken control of this intersection. They had shut down the intersection, and someone was setting off fireworks, and then there was that pink smoke bomb that someone threw right in the middle of the officers here. We're moving down. We are now moving eastbound on Hollywood Boulevard. They're trying to clear out some of the protesters to make some room here.
Well, we're sort of.
I'm just going to hold my microphone out here so you can hear what's happening. Looks like they just kind of expanded their area here that they've closed down about half a block now east of Vine on Hollywood Boulevard. Let's see what's going on the other direction.
Well,
I think we could go to Chris Christie in Air 7 HD. He is over the scene there and perhaps has a better vantage point.
Ellen, we've moved over about a half mile from that location over towards La Brea and Hollywood, and it looks like there may be a report of looting on El Cerrito, just north of Hollywood. This is Rob. This is actually La Brea, so El Cerrito is going to be over towards the right. That's that, yeah, right there in the center. Looks like something, maybe tilt up a little bit. Is there any businesses behind that over to the left? Left behind that WeWork building? It looks like an empty street, but maybe the back of some of these businesses might have been penetrated. We're getting reports of looting. The report came in, Philip and Ellen, of some possible looting on El Cerrito, just north of Hollywood Boulevard. So you can see the LAPD airship now circling over this intersection. And if you notice, that El Cerrito place is just a block off of La Brea, where you've got hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of protesters moving through. And that is, if indeed that the looting reports are true, that is one of the patterns that we've seen over the last few days. The looters, who are bad actors and typically, from my experience over the last several days, have nothing to do with the protesters. They drive in from other parts and integrate themselves, infiltrate the protest, and then when police are distracted, they kind of venture off into nearby businesses and try and break in. That may be what we're dealing with here. I don't see any signs yet. Anybody running. The telltale is you see people running out with boxes and all kinds of stuff, but I don't see that just yet. We'll try and nail that down. There is an LAPD presence here, and we do see something that we have seen over the last several minutes, a lot of people bringing water to the marchers and handing out bottles of water, and it looks like that's what we're looking at right here. Again, this intersection, La Brea Avenue and Hollywood Boulevard, a peaceful protest, but reports of looting just about a block away. We'll keep on top of that report for you guys.
All right, Chris Christie, thank you very much for that live report. And thank you, everyone, for joining us for Eyewitness News at 3 p.m. We've had special coverage, and now we are starting our 3 p.m. newscast. I'm Colleen Sullivan with Ellen Leyva and Philip Palmer.
Copy.
We're all here. We're watching this very large protest, and it's been very peaceful. Just a few moments ago, we did hear some reports of some looting in El Cerrito, just north of Hollywood. But let's go to Eyewitness News reporter Rob Hayes. You're on the ground right there, Rob. Rob Hayes, I'm not sure if you hear us, but
Colleen, yes, I'm sorry. I hear you now. It looks like one of the protesters is trying to confront the police officers right now. They've shut down this stretch of Hollywood Boulevard near Vine, and most of the protesters have stayed back. They're holding their signs, but the one gentleman came up. He's backed off now. Now they are chanting here in the street. Things have cooled off considerably from just a few minutes ago when police cars are streaming through here. There was a smoke bomb that was thrown in the middle of the police group that had formed here. And for now, they're just holding the line here, trying to keep the protesters from moving up Hollywood Boulevard to the west. But I'm trying to hear, yeah, they're just chanting right now, and the police are holding the line.
And Rob, as we watch your pictures, you know, we want to make sure that everyone knows we've been covering this for a few hours now, and it's just been a tremendous amount of people demonstrating, marching, if you will, and this is just a very isolated incident. We're going to go to Chris Christie in Air 7 HD. He's overhead and has, from his perspective, but, you know, Chris, this has been an amazing protest, a huge turnout,
right, cool.
And this is just one small incident that's happened this entire day so far. Chris?
Hey there, Ellen. Yeah, just moved over to Cole Place and Sunset Boulevard. There was a little bit of a confrontation. It looks like it's eased up quite a bit. You see the skirmish line there, and now a number of protesters kneeling in the middle of the intersection. So it is still peaceful here. There is a skirmish line, and I do see that strike team behind them. We are near the police station, and that may be, yeah, that's most likely why that skirmish line is there. They are basically drawing the line as far as how close this mass of protesters will eventually be allowed to get to the LAPD Hollywood Division Station. So we see this is the front head of the protest. There's thousands of people west of this intersection that are making their way eastbound on Sunset Boulevard. But for now, it looks like the front portion of the protest has now taken a knee right there in the middle of the intersection in front of these officers.
Well, one of the things that we're looking at on the left, I believe, or is, where are we seeing the downtown shot? Okay, we're not quite there. It is. One of our other Air 7 shots is that in downtown. So everything that we've been talking about in Hollywood, where people have just been on the move, and there's no telling the miles they've covered since 11:30, and they just walked and walked. Grand Park there in downtown has been a gathering and a rally of sorts where people paused for moments of silence. Carlos Granda was there, and he talked about how they would pause, and he could almost hear the speakers from the back to the front. And it's such a different environment there. all of it has been remarkably peaceful for some 3 hours now, but the volume of people is something that we've talked about over and over throughout the day. And that concentration of people there at Grand Park is remarkably different than what we've seen at Hollywood in the